Okay, as a responsible journalist, but not a sound technician, full disclosure, I would love to take credit for the selections because I couldn't be prouder of this group and the groups that we do at Variety, the Tend to Watch program that we do. But this one we were particularly blessed because we're working with Lena, who has been doing a program very similar to this, so we're collaborating. But I collaborate at Variety with our critics and reporters and editors and kind of query the world and the community. And so it's a very collaborative process, which leads me to a couple of other points about the program to make sure and get started. First of all, also, I have a very important disclosure that is probably a cautionary tale. I auditioned for the role of Luke Skywalker. So you can see how this whole business can go wrong. Be very careful. Be very careful. Someday I'm going to meet Mark Hamill and we're going to exchange notes. So, the other thing, you know, in terms of our Tend to Watch program, which I actually did start this at Variety about 16 years ago, and so the pressure is that about 4 or 5 years ago, when we named our actors to list in October, 4 of them in January received Oscar nominations. So not to put any pressure on you, that's the tough news. The good news is that there were many years where, like the year that we named Adrian Brody to our list, and it took him 5 years to win an Oscar. I think 5 or 6 years later, he won the Oscar. And Melissa Leo, I think it was 3 or 4 years after we named her, she won the Oscar. And we've had a great track record with our cinematographers list. I think in 1999, the list, 7 out of the 10 or 8 of the 10 have now been Oscar nominated or won. Not that the Oscars are everything to everyone, but it is an interesting track record. We're really proud of it, and we love it when people make us look smart at Variety, because it isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do, but it's nice when it happens. I think, you know, the first point I want to raise and talk about a little bit, because it's a great place to dive in. I think if you've looked at this list and you look at the panel we have here, the actors, it's pretty clear that Variety is a global publication, and that I make sure that we stay global and we pay attention to the world of cinema, because I don't think of cinema as an art form that belongs to one country. We have folks, I think half of our list is from outside the US, and then we also have some folks on the panel. We were chatting last night, someone here from starting out in Virginia, somebody starting out in Kentucky. And Scoot, where did you say you were from?
Texas.
Texas, okay. So not exactly the absolute epicenters of Hollywood and show business. So I wanted to talk a little bit for folks like Bella, for instance, Elias, working outside Hollywood and then looking at or working in Hollywood. Bella, let me start with you. You have done films in Australia, and you've done films that are a lot of special effects, big budget, dark shadows. Any observations early on in your career now to working in the two businesses, things you like or things that you found a little bit jarring about the switching? That's the cognitive dissonance, by the way. Okay. I have to use big words sometimes.
Look, to put it very simply and perhaps crudely, there's a lot more money and there's a lot more jobs in America, which makes it easy and in a sense. And you know, a project like Dark Shadows, it's great to work on because you're very well looked after, and there's no big rush. In Australia, you know, you've got to try and pump it out, and yeah.
And when you say easy, in terms of it's not a difficult choice if somebody offers you something in this world. You don't have to think a long time about, do I want to do this? Or I'm interpreting what you said.
Look, I meant easy in the sense that, I don't know, in Australia, I'd go for maybe an audition a month if I was lucky, and I kind of just, when I wasn't working, I just felt like a bum. Whereas here, when I'm not working, I feel like an unemployed actor, so it's nice, you know. There's auditions and there's work to be done, so that makes it easier. And easy in the sense that it's nice to be on a film that has a budget and to, you know, feel looked after is really nice.
more comfortable.
More comfortable, perhaps would be a better term.
And Donald, coming from Irish business, but you were working in huge movies awfully young, right? How old were you when you did the first Harry Potter?
No, I was I was only in the last two Harry Potters.
No, I
and
mean
had
when
like two
you
lines.
did your first.
Oh, my first thing. Oh no, I did a play when I was like 19, and then I didn't really act properly again until about 22.
Mhm.
So I guess it was a while. I did writing and directing in college. So
And in terms of Irish cinema, with so many great talents and great actors coming out of it, and working in a big picture like a Potter movie, because your dad, were you mentally and physically prepared to walk into a big film like that? You felt?
no, I was terrified. It was yeah. I don't think I probably enjoyed the Harry Potter thing as much as I should have done because I was just too frightened. And then I realized afterwards that I would never be that frightened again in a film set, and that was a positive thing.
So you got rid of that very early on.
Yeah.
And Elias, are you looking at prospects and things to do in Hollywood? Are there opportunities, things you're looking at? Or are you working primarily in Germany and New York right now?
No, it's difficult to answer that because I never planned anything in my career, so I never watched for the next step. It always happened. So it's the thing. I'm always looking forward to the next projects and good movies, but I never planned anything. So
You actually must have looked at my question list, because one of my questions was, if you had a plan, would you tell us? That was a question for everybody.
sure.
And so you've already answered it. No
answered it.
plan, just doing it.
Yeah.
What about, is Hollywood a goal or a thoughtful something that you look forward to? Or?
I mean, I did, just a few months ago, I did my first experiences in international productions, but and it was nice to see that, like Bella said, there's more money and the movies are even greater, but I think it's hard for me as a German to plan a career in Hollywood because you hear it, it's difficult for me to speak in English. Everybody he can hear my dialect, my accent, so I think I want to stay in Germany and do the movies there, but I'm always feel.
You'll take the call from Paradigm or from Paradigm or CAA, or you'll take the call from Hollywood if it comes.
Yeah, if it comes, I will answer it.
Good. Good. And then in terms of working in smaller pictures and bigger pictures, it's kind of the same as to me working, whether you're, somebody once had a debate with me about indie cinema because I was based in London for 5 years. I was Jeff Gilmore, actually, from Sundance. We were on the radio together, and I said, Jeff, you have to understand, everything in Europe is indie. There is no, so this whole idea of India doesn't really mean anything, And he said, you've been over in Europe too long, Steve. But Adam, for instance, you worked on big pictures and small pictures. I'm curious in terms of, because acting is mysterious to everyone who doesn't do it. Between theater, TV, and film, the pacing of everything is so different. Is the pacing on an indie picture and the method of production, does it impact on performance and how you do? Do you have to adjust in some way between a big picture and a small picture?
I guess I usually just let whatever the material is dictate the process. Like I don't have like a set way of going in with thinking it consciously that this is something that I'm going to work on similar to a play.
But does the environment, like a run and gun 20-day shoot versus, a big movie that shoots for 4 months, is the pacing of the work affect you at all, or do you have a preference at all?
No, I feel like I'm too new and too young to have like a set opinion about anything. I'm like, oh, this is not the way I normally work, or this my other productions, it's not how. So I feel like I'm usually just at the mercy of what else is happening, and I enjoy having to adjust, I guess.
And all the directors in the room and in the world are saying, please stay that way, please. How many filmmakers are in the audience today, by the way? And the rest of you are fans and journalists, I guess. And thanks to everyone for showing up and packing the hall, and thanks to the Hamptons for hosting this. I don't know if this is the most beautiful place in the world, but it's definitely, of the places I've been, it's definitely fighting for the top spot. So beautiful day. We talked a little bit about theater. How many of you have done theater work, other than like school theater? Yeah? I have to do this rotating. And, you hear actors talk about what they prefer. As I said before, I think the pacing between the different things is so different. Does anybody have a preference of, if you have your choice to do something, the thing that really just gets your heart going and you love, or do you love it all? Anybody, any thoughts about the difference or preferences?
There's definitely advantage, I think, to both, I guess. Theater, you're definitely have more control when you go out there. No one can really tell you what to do, which is really fun, and I feel like you can take back the night or whatever. But there is something to be involved in film and television just because the audience that it reaches, and it makes it kind of seem more relevant. I guess not that theater is relevant, because I believe it is, but sometimes I feel like a little isolated by it, that you just wish that it could be, that was more part of the social norm in America specifically, where the audience was just diverse and younger or older, just a wide mix of things, where just with film and television more people just see it. And but as far as process and actually working on it, I don't know, it's been really bad theater and really good theater. So.
And in the movie making process, the waiting on movies doesn't bother anybody. It seems like there's an awful lot of waiting and a lot of time between when you actually go out and do something, and then you wait more.
No, well, you're employed.
That's a good thing.
So it's important because there's a lot of waiting in times when you're waiting for jobs.
Right.
The film industry is very interesting because I come from a sports background, and your work ethic directly translates into results. And I learned very quickly that in this business, you can outwork everyone and still not work. You can be very, very good and the best in your acting class and still not work. And you can see your counterparts work. And that is one of the waiting things I think that sometimes can bear on a person if they're not, psychologically in the right place. But I think the waiting on set, for me personally, I don't want to speak for anyone else, I look forward to it. I think it gives you opportunity to journal, to get closer to the character, and sometimes it gives you an opportunity to get away from a character, to rest for a moment. But I think it's all in the job. I don't think the waiting is separate from the work.
I think Bella, and you just mentioned this, Nate, do you think of the career that you have and that you're obviously all excelling at already? You're kind of straight out of the gate to getting a lot of recognition and a lot of opportunities. Was there a point when the competitiveness of the acting profession and the acting craft was daunting to you? Do you ever find it a daunting, I think, I'm in the Writers Guild, I think it's 98% unemployment. I was in a steel workers union. It didn't have that kind of high rate of unemployment. Do you have a thought about that?
As far as the competitiveness, I feel like for me, I learned a long time ago is you can't compare yourself to other people. And that's a place that you don't want to get into. And each person is an individual, and you see a lot of incredibly talented people out there, and you're dumbfounded. How is this person not working? Or here's this other person that you're not such a fan of, and how is that person working? And you just can't compare yourself to other people, and you just really need to focus on the work and focus on the work. And I've noticed that it's a lot of the people that just sit down and focus on the work are the people that are really excelling.
Yeah. Any other thoughts about the competitiveness of the business in Australia, for instance? Because you were mentioning the less opportunities. Do you find it more fiercely competitive or comparatively competitive?
I guess, when I was acting there, I was starting out, so I wasn't really aware of it. But I suppose, there's about 5 jobs in Australia and about 6 actors, so,
Somebody's always unhappy.
No, look, it feels like if I go back, there's the same actors who are, who are working there, who are used time and time again, but I think most of them, are good, so I guess there was a reason that they're there.
And Alicia, what about in Denmark? Do you find it?
Sweden.
Sweden, I'm sorry. It was a Danish movie. In Scandinavia, in Europe, do you find, is there a sense of competition in each of these national industries?